time to reinstitute the military draft? Many of us are old enough to remember when there was a draft in the United States. It was about 1969, 1970 when the draft shifted over to a lottery system, and then a while later, although young men are still required to register with the Selective Service, the draft basically went away and the U.S. military shifted to an all-volunteer service. Now, more recently, with the war in Iraq, the war on terrorism, some have argued that the U.S. should return to the draft. What do you think the average American says? Well, the answer is simple: no. 80% of Americans now say no to the idea of a reinstituted draft. Just 18% said yes. That was a change from a couple of decades ago. Actually, back in 1980, we still had a majority of Americans who thought going back to the draft would be a good idea. Then it dropped off, and it's been well below a majority every time we have asked it since that point. We looked very carefully to see if there were some demographic differences in interest in reinstituting the draft. Not surprisingly, young people are least interested, but even among the oldest group that we look at, 65 years of age and over, interest in returning to the draft is still just a little more than a third. Men versus women, men just slightly more likely to say yes than women. Veterans, even those who've served in the military, certainly more likely to say the U.S. should return to the draft, but that's still less than half. So the bottom line out of all of this, if our Congress people and representatives and senators and the president are all watching this briefing at this point, the direction to you from the people is, at this point, do not reinstitute the draft. Join us again for more insights into American public opinion. I'm Dr. Frank Newport, editor-in-chief of the Gallup poll, with Democracy on Demand.